Welcome to another STEM in a Box tutorial video. Today what we're doing is covering the extension tasks of the introductory generic project intro, and so it's just the extension tasks. Okay, so let's get started. So let's go to the code for that sprite, which is where I am here now. So what the plan is going to be, we will get it to increase in size up to its full size. If we go to control and grab a repeat loop, and what we're going to do is go to looks and then change the size by, so we're changing it by 10 units every time. So we're going to have to use trial and error to see how many times changing it by 10 will increase it. So let's have a look. Okay, so that's right. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted. So if we go back to there, and then we now if that happens too quickly, what we want to do is put a slight delay inside there on each iteration. So one would be too long. Let's make it 0.1. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Okay. That's a little bit more like what I was looking for. Okay, now you might read that for the couple of seconds, so let's change that to 2 seconds now, and instead of the hide, what I'm going to do is do the reverse of this. I want to make it shrink. So what I'm going to do is right click, duplicate that repeat loop, and instead of changing the size by +10, what I'm going to do is change the size by -10. So it's going to be essentially I'm not going to need that 2 seconds, so I'm going to dump that. So, and then after that it can hide. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Wait 2 seconds and then it should start shrinking and then hide. Excellent, so that's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so job done, job tested. So the next thing we need to do is apply some color change effects to the sprites using the set color. Okay, well let's start with our introductory slide. So in the introductory slide, so if we show that, it's not showing because the last thing it did was hiding, so that's why I'm dragging the show out and just clicking it so that it shows. But now the set size is to 0, of course, so I just need to manually go and set it back to 100%. Okay, I'm going to delete that eventually. Alrighty, great. So let's just get some color effects happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to put that in a loop like before, and let's just put it in a forever loop now just for testing purposes. Okay, so let's click that to see what we get. Okay, now let's stop that. Now the rate of the color change is going to be determined by the number in here, okay, which is 25. So if we put that into 10, let's see how the rate of the color change slows down. So I think that's why the default perhaps of 25 seems to be pretty good. Okay, so that's a color effect and it's really, really simple. Okay, so I've tested that in isolation, so I'm happy with that. So I know that's the block that I want. Let's get rid of that. Now where do we want to put that? Well, we really want that to happen in this wait 2 seconds, don't we? Around about there. Okay, so that's where because as it's shrinking and growing, there's really not much point having it in there, I think. So instead of the wait 2 seconds, what we need to do is put a loop in there. So let's go and get a repeat 10 times, and let's just see how long that takes. Okay, so maybe we'll go 20 times because that wasn't quite long enough. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So it's not, I don't know exactly how many seconds it is, but I don't need to know. Okay, I'm just judging it. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that, and we're going to pop that in there because that's where I want it to happen. All right, so I don't need that anymore. So I'm reassembling everything now that I've tested all the individual components. Now get rid of that. Now if I test this whole thing here, and then it does the color effect, and then it shrinks away. Excellent. Good. So that's commented and annotated. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to look at the transition where we press the space bar after the title slide disappears so that we can move to the characters coming and introducing themselves. So rather than using time, what we want to do is ask the user to press the space bar. So how could we do that? Well, there's lots of ways to do it, but probably the easiest way is to get the sprite, which is the title slide, the first sprite, to change its costume, and then that costume would simply be a message, a text message that says press the space bar, you know, to move to the next stage. Okay, so that's the plan. All right, so let's go to the sprite, the introductory slide sprite, and then go to costume, and let's make a new sprite. And I'm just going to go and get, say, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go and get just a big button like that. I don't have to, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to just put that in the middle, and then I'm going to put some text on it and say okay, so that's my costume, and it's called, I'm just going to call it press spacebar, okay? Press spacebar. Now that we've got two costumes, we need to switch the costumes, you see. So in the beginning, that's why in the beginning we're going to need the switch costume, which we've got here. Okay, so these are the costumes, you see. So this is the sprite, the introduction sprite, and these are the two costumes. So that's the introduction. So in the beginning we need to tell that sprite to put on the introduction costume, and then it does its, you know, disappearing thing that it did before. And then instead of hiding, we don't want it to hide at all this time. What we want it to do is we want it to switch costumes. So at the end, when it's disappeared and shrunk down, you know, to a very small size, we want this costume to appear. But because it's the same sprite, all of the visual effects for that sprite will still be in, you know, in effect, you see. So it'll be small, so we won't see it. So we simply need to set it back to its original size, okay? So that should work. So let's just test that. Good, okay, so now that works. Now what we're going to do is do a new event where instead of the Johnny B code starting at the very beginning when you click the green flag, you see, which is where all of the code starts, the event that is now going to start all of the other code is not going to be clicking the green flag and then waiting appropriately. It's going to be a different event. It's going to be pressing the space bar. So we're going to, don't need that anymore, we're going to use this instead. Okay, so let's see if that works. So let's start the animation from the beginning. Yes, that's correct. It's flashing, it'll shrink down, and it should do nothing at this stage. It's not time-based anymore. It's waiting for me up here. No, that's not correct. Oh, it is correct. Why is that correct? Okay, that's correct because we haven't changed the start event, you see. That's still based on time, so that's all good. We'll get to those. But Johnny B did not start. Okay, so Johnny B, let's now go test it again. Now Johnny B should start only when I press the space bar, and that's correct. All right, so I press the space bar and then, but what's not correct is that when I press the space bar, you see, I want to get rid of this button sprite in the beginning. Okay, so let's go back and do that. So let's go to the code for this one, and then what we need to do is we just need to use this one. So now I'm in the first sprite, the introductory sprite, and it's now put on the costume, this button costume, and then when you press the space bar, I want the Johnny B to start, but I also want to hide, I want to get rid of the this sprite, the button sprite. Okay, so all I do is put my hide in there and it will go away. Okay. And let's go back to the beginning. Good. Okay, now I press the space bar and then Johnny B appears and the button disappears, you see. So that's all correct. Excellent. So what we need to do now is we just need to go, so I've proven that on the action of pressing the space bar, I can get rid of the first sprite and start Johnny B. So all I need to do now is go to Sandra and replace that with when the space bar, but I still, it won't be 15 though, because all I need to wait for is the time from when I press the space bar, which is only the time that Johnny B takes. And if you look here, Johnny B takes, so I'm going to adjust this time tracker here. Johnny B only takes 10 seconds, okay? And I'm going to put space bar dependent now, you see. So Johnny takes 10 seconds. So for Sandra needs to wait only 10 seconds from when the space bar is pressed. And likewise with now when I go to Cassie will need to wait only 8 seconds because Sandra only takes 8 seconds because Johnny B says 2 things, remember, and Sandra only says 1 thing for 2 seconds. So if I go to Cassie and get rid of that and put when there, and then with the timing, so I'm going to put space bar dependent. Now Cassie has to wait 18 seconds has to wait for Johnny to do his thing, and then Sandra, so that's 18 seconds, okay? So Cassie has to wait 18 seconds, not 23, so I'm going to change that, okay? Now the final slide will then have to wait for Cassie to finish, which is another 8 seconds. So that's going to be 26. 18 plus 8 is 26. So I need to go in here and make this 26. Okay. So that should be it for that. So let's test that from the get-go. Go to the beginning. Yes, that's correct. It's color effect, shrinking, press the space bar, immediately the button disappears, Johnny B starts. Great, yes, we haven't changed any of this, it's just the timings we're changing. Excellent, so all of this is the same. Great, but the timing was correct. Yes, and that's it. Okay, so that's done. Oh no, sorry, got to wait for Cassie. Hang on, what happened there? That's not right. The title slide timing must be wrong, so I've stuffed that up. So let's go check that. I've got Johnny 10, Sandra 8, yes, that's 18, and then Cassie will take another 8, which is 26. Okay. Oh, but you see, I forgot to change the event. That's 26 seconds from the very beginning of when we start the game, but that's why it was going prematurely, because it has to be 26 seconds after the spacebar is pressed, you see, and events, sorry. There we go. That's why, it doesn't matter how good you are. You need to test everything one at a time and then test everything, okay? Yes, it takes longer, but that's how all people who do complicated jobs work. Okay, so that should fix it now. So let's go back to the very beginning. Excellent. Yep, press the space bar. Johnny B coming down. Correct. Got two things to say. Correct. Sandra then comes in. Yes. Move to the center of the stage. Says one thing. Yes. Disappears. Cassie comes in. Move to the center of the stage. Says one thing. Correct. Disappears. Yes. And then our timing for our final slide is correct, and that's the end of the animation.